Hello ladies, gents, and everyones. It is Thursday, February 17th, and we're here to talk about this week's space and astronomy news. If you're a nosy neighbor, then you'll like this first piece of news because we just learned a little bit more about our galactic next-door neighbors as a third planet was discovered orbiting Proxima Centauri, the star closest to our own. The newly discovered planet has a mass about a quarter that of the Earth, or about twice that of Mars, making it the least massive planet ever detected by radial velocity. This is thanks to ESPRESSO, a new high-resolution spectrograph on the ESO's Very Large Telescope. This little planet is zipping around Proxima Centauri once every 5 days, and such a close orbit means that it's probably too hot to be habitable, even though Proxima Centauri is a much cooler star than the Sun. There had previously been 2 other planets detected in this system, including an Earth-like planet that is in the habitable zone at an orbit of 11 days, and a more Neptune-like planet that's much further out at an orbit of about 5 years. For now, Proxima Centauri D remains a candidate until it can be confirmed, but this is really exciting science with ESPRESSO and just really exciting to keep building this picture we have of our nearest neighbor. As you may have heard, last Friday was a really big day for our favorite new space telescope, as the James Webb Space Telescope has pointed itself at a calibration star and returned its very first image. This image actually contains 18 duplicate images of a single star, and this is because the 18 primary mirror segments have not yet been aligned, so they are each sending their own signal into the detector. As the primary mirror alignment process continues, these 18 different images will coalesce into one single clear image of the star. Along with this image, NIRCam also took a direct picture of the primary mirror. Yes, we have a selfie of the Webb taken in starlight. These images were both taken with NIRCam. The MIRI instrument is still cooling down before it can start its own calibration operations and take its first images. But that is not the only JWST news. In addition to these images, we got confirmation this week that Webb has successfully used its fine guidance sensor for the first time. The FGS instrument allows Webb to stay pointed at a target with extreme precision and stay there while the other instruments collect data and take images. The instrument measures the position of the target 16 times per second and uses a small steering mirror to make slight adjustments. The FGS team compared the accuracy of this guiding motion to someone standing in New York City being able to detect the eye motions of someone standing at the Canadian border 311 miles away. FGS is part of the FGS NIRIS instrument, which is one of 4 instruments on the JWST, and it was contributed by the Canadian Space Agency. Remember Inspiration 4, the first all-private orbital mission that went to space last September? Well, the mission commander, Jared Isaacman, who is the billionaire that was also funding the charitable trip, must have liked it because he's going back. On Monday, the Polaris program was announced. So Isaacman has purchased up to 3 more private space missions from SpaceX, with the aim of continuing to advance space exploration and raise awareness and funding for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. The first mission of the Polaris program is Polaris Dawn, and this mission might launch as soon as October and will feature new milestones like the highest ever orbit for a Dragon capsule, and maybe even the highest ever orbit for a crewed mission, and the first ever commercial spacewalk. Isaacman is reprising his role as mission commander, this time joined with 3 new crew members, including 2 SpaceX employees. And no, I'm not completely dying of jealousy over here. Speaking of SpaceX, we haven't seen Starship in action since its last successful test hot flight back in May of 2021. And last Thursday, Elon Musk gave a long-awaited press conference about the status of Starship. The presser was more speech than update, going over some of Elon's lofty goals like establishing a human presence on Mars, being able to build 1 Starship every 3 days, and launching Starships every 6 to 8 hours. More concrete details were a little bit less forthcoming, though we did hear about the new generation of Raptor engines. So Raptor 2s are simpler, cheaper, and more powerful than the OG Raptor engines, and SpaceX is now producing them at a rate of 5 per week. And of course, it was impossible to ignore the backdrop of a fully stacked Starship next to the launch and catch tower that SpaceX says will help them land and reuse Starship. Now, what's currently holding up additional Starship testing is the FAA approval process. So the draft programmatic environmental assessment received over 19,000 comments during the public review period last September. So the FAA is still reviewing those comments and preparing the final PEA. The agency had been targeting February 28th for that final PEA, but they just announced this week that that's being pushed back to March 28th to allow for more time to review these comments and for interagency consultations. Musk has indicated that he's considering shifting the Starship operations to Florida if the Texas location requires too much additional environmental analysis, and he's confident that Starship will go to orbit by the end of the year. The sun is such a fixture of life that it can be easy to overlook its scientific importance, not least because it's the only star that we can actually examine up close and personal. So it's really exciting that last week NASA announced the selection of 2 Explorer program missions focused on heliophysics. One is the Helioswarm mission, and like the name suggests, this mission will actually use a swarm of 9 spacecraft to study the sun. This will enable measurements of the magnetic field fluctuations and the turbulence of the solar wind over large distances. The other is the Multi-Slit Solar Explorer, or MUSE. MUSE will use the extreme ultraviolet light from the sun to study its corona and eruptions. These observations will, among other things, better our understanding of the Sun-Earth connection and space weather, which is hugely important for us back here on Earth, like we saw last week. Both missions have budgets in the couple $100 million range and are expected to launch by the end of the decade. That's all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in 2 weeks. I hope you have a good one. Bye!